What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. Hope everybody out there in the Service Alliance community is doing well. And a good morning to all the solid steppers out there joining us. Thank you for popping in. As always, I got my girl, Miss Ward, with me. How you doing today, Miss Ward?
Man, I'm too blessed to be stressed. I'm trying to like I said, I'm trying to get these blueberries done, man. I'm planting blueberries, lettuce, mixed greens, onions, all type of stuff.
Dang, you making me jealous. We're gonna my wife does all the gardening around our home, so I might have to help her out a little bit this year. I tried it one year, and let's just say TK's green thumb isn't really what it cracked up to be. So my wife does an amazing job, but that sounds good. Yeah, we got some blueberry, but I think they're blueberry bushes. Maybe they're not. They might be blackberry bushes. We've got some bushes of berries around the house as well. That's awesome. You have to give us an update. Let us know how they do. But today we're going to be talking about team building. We're going to be talking about quality over quantity. And I think this one's going to resonate with some people. I can speak from experience with this because a few years back, I was just gung-ho about growing this big service company. And it really smacked me in the face in the last year and a half that it's not about how big your team is. It's about the quality of your team. And I've seen it with a lot of different business owners. I've seen it with a lot of people that, get all gung-ho about growth and adding team members and hiring techs and all that stuff, which there's nothing wrong with having a big team. There's nothing wrong with having a good size crew. And it can equal a lot more money, but can also equal a lot more headaches if you don't do it right. So we're going to be chatting about that this morning. We got Brother Jeremy from I Got Your Six Appliance Repair checking in. I think he's gearing up to head out to Asti, if I'm not mistaken. Him and a lot of the other folks around the community. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it to Asti this year, but I will be at PSA come September, which is right here in good old VA, Virginia. Got our boy Adam Schwiegel checking in. Good morning, sir. Always a pleasure to have you. Well, let's get prayed up. Hopefully everybody out there is ready for this day. You're pumped up. And I got a scripture. So, Miss Ward, if you don't mind doing us the honor of praying us up, I'll get into this verse and then we'll get into this chat.
Absolutely. Lord, thank you for allowing us to rise this morning and speak your holy name. Lord, thank you for ordering our steps mentally, spiritually, and physically, that we can go throughout the day and conquer everything in front of us and forget everything behind us. Amen. That's all I got, man.
Amen. Hey, that's all we need. That's all we need. If he does just that, it'll be a great day.
Yeah.
Beautiful thing. Dr. Dan's checking in. Always good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well out there.
My God.
The scripture for this morning is going to be out of my favorite book, Proverbs, chapter 21. I was reading through this yesterday, and it popped into my head this morning when I was trying to pick a verse for today's chat. And it says, good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. I'm going to read that again. I'm going to read it a skosh slower. And when I'm done, I want to chat about this. I want Miss Ward's take on it. If you guys have something you want to say in the chat, but I'm going to read it slower. Proverbs 21:5. Good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. Good planning and hard work. Let's focus on that first piece for a second. Good planning. One of my biggest mistakes when I first started growing my team is I didn't plan properly. Now, by the grace of God and whatever little bit of favor he showed on me. He sent me some amazing people. He sent me Beth. He sent me Austin, who's my business partner. He sent me Stone. He sent me Zach. He sent me a lot of different people that were awesome team members. And I'm talking about my service company, not right now, not the Service Alliance Group. But when I started to add people and we started to grow, I wasn't very diligent in planning who I was adding to the team and how I was adding them and the proper procedures for growing and adding team members. I'm going to just be transparent with you guys. There was a point where I was hiring employees and I didn't even have an application. Your application was you rode with me for one day. If you knew how to use a multimeter, you got the job. And let me just say, you need to have an application in place if you're going to be a professional, bare minimum. But there was a time I didn't even have an application. You came in, you rode with Austin one day, you rode with me one day. If we liked you, you got the job. I will say that that's a good practice. The ride-along interview is a great practice, but have some procedures in place. Have an onboarding process. Have an interview process, and have these things documented so that they can be repetitive. Have a DISC assessment that you can have your employees take to see what their strengths, their weaknesses are, what type of character they have. And I'll say this, the number one thing I look for now when I'm planning to hire someone, and I made a vow in the beginning of 2024 to not hire anyone this year. But the number one thing I look for when I hire now is character. Because I can teach you how to read a multimeter, to use a multimeter. I can teach you how to take appliances apart. But it is extremely hard to teach someone how to be a person of good character. It's borderline impossible, in my opinion. But the second half of that verse says, hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. Man, let me tell you, every time I have tried to take a shortcut in business, it has came back to bite me in the ass. Every time. And there's times when it was borderline detrimental when I tried to take those shortcuts. And I'm a firm believer that it's more important to grow slow and grow in a way that you can control and plan and make the right moves. Because when I started growing fast and we got up to 10 employees and all that stuff, and a lot of you guys are like, 10 employees, that's not that much. It was way too much for me to handle at the time with the systems and procedures and the things that I had in place. So I'm going to toss it over to Miss Ward because I know she's got something to say about this, but I'm going to read it one more time before she gets into it. Good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. What do you think about that, Miss Ward? What's your 2 cents?
Well, I think that is real interesting because, anytime we do a shortcut in business or life, we pay. We just not that quick and we ain't that smart and we definitely ain't that slick. I think it's really interesting because, we have a lot of people who watch us who are actually one-man shows, so we got to make sure we don't leave them out. They can definitely apply the same concepts, to their personal development and building themselves up to a point where they can actually hire people. But, I think that in all things, you have to lead by example. So character check off, mental stability and awareness and growth, all those things are very important in having a foundation. So I wholeheartedly agree, of course, with Proverbs. How can you go wrong? I mean, shoot, I hate to say it, you kind of can only read that book and be good. You know what I'm saying? But, as far as team building and things of that nature, those mistakes you made, we've all made them. We met people we liked, we gave them a job, didn't know nothing about them, where they came from, how they got there, just because we went on our gut or we went on our emotion. So, at the end of the day, you have to understand what your vision and your long range plan is and put things in place and then learn how to be the person, be the manager, be the real boss. If that's what you want to do. You want to build out a company. There are people that I don't understand why people be out here trying to reinvent the wheel. Actually, there's a blueprint, and this a tried and true blueprint. You got to follow it. That's all I got,
Amen.
man.
Yeah. And I think, piggybacking off of what you just said, with a lot of our viewers being one-man shows, I wrote down some notes this morning as I was pondering this. For you one-man shows out there, whether you're a one-man show that's perfectly happy being the one-man show, nothing wrong with that, or you're the one-man show that aspires to grow to a multi-tech company, I want you to remember this. It all starts with you. The processes and the things that you put in place right now are what's going to give the foundation for growth. And fast growth is not good growth. Slow growth is good growth. Strategic growth is good growth. So I'd like to give a couple of things that I thought about if I had to do it all over again, what I would tell somebody that's a one-man show. Number one, and this is my opinion, so if you disagree, that's totally cool. But number one, if you're thinking about growing, get you a CSR first. Get you someone to man those phones and take care of that scheduling and the things of that nature. Because, man, when I hired Beth and she took that off of my plate, it was like the weight of the world lifted off of my shoulders. I remember back in the early days of the Appliance Guy, before we were Richmond Appliance Guys, I would come home in the evenings and I would sit in the driveway for sometimes an hour or more, just calling people, scheduling calls. Because I wasn't one of them technicians. I wouldn't answer calls during the day. They'd all go to voicemail. And think about how many calls I was missing. Think about how many people called, got a voicemail, and my voicemail would say, I'll call you back at the end of the day. That person's not waiting. That person's not going to sit there and wait for you to call back unless they're a loyal customer. But if that's a new customer that you're trying to get into their house, they're calling the next person on the Google page. They're calling your competitor to get that washer fixed or that dryer fixed. So number one tip I would say is start with the CSR. A lot of guys go out there and want to hire another tech. I don't think that's the right way to go personally. What's your thoughts on that, Miss Ward? Tech first or CSR first?
Well, CSR first, because, what most people don't realize is that you think you're a good tech till you get out there and you got to juggle the calls, the parts ordering, the drama, the customers, the experiences. The beautiful thing about hiring a CSR is that they have a different viewpoint on everything. They have the patience, the tolerance, and the foresight to deal with customer issues and to cut off customer issues before they begin. They take away and they're worth their weight in gold. That's where that clear communication channel piece comes into place, because with team building, when you're a one-man show, I think one thing that people forget is that the vendors are part of your team. If you're using a specific CRM, the support people are a part of your team. All those relationships have to have clear communication. A lot of times, we have Workies, House Call Pro, Service Titan, whatever people are using. And you have to be able to manipulate that software to what you want. Like, all that is part of clear communication. Like with my business, when I started my business, I built my whole business on AI. Before AI, and this is in 2019. People are like, how do you do all this? Like, well, what I do is I find a software or an app or something that I have fashioned specifically for my clientele, and my avatar. But like I said, that goes back to structure and discipline and looking in the mirror and understanding what you can handle, what you can't, what's going to make your business profitable, make your life stress-free, and allow you to grow.
Yeah. I want to touch on what you just said. Looking in the mirror. We talked about it starts with you. If you're that one man show out there today, it's time to do some hardcore self reflection. And here's what I would suggest you to do. Do a SWOT analysis on yourself. Look at yourself and say, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What opportunities do I have? And really take a full assessment of what you're good at, what you're not good at, where you aspire to be in 5 to 10 years, and then build off of that and build the team based off of that. My biggest weakness is I'm not a computer, sit at the desk, answer phone calls, schedule stuff, do all. That's my number one biggest weakness. I hate that stuff. I absolutely hate it. So I knew in my heart that the first thing I needed to do was get that off of my plate. And here comes Beth shining into the company with all her glory. And she's just, I mean, she is a godsend. I want to touch on this, Miss Ward, because Justin's taught me this over the years, time and time again. Justin's someone that I've always looked up to. He's a great business owner.
Yes, he is.
But he said, invest in each person, not adding employees. Find out their goals, find their character. Don't manage, be a leader and inspire. I wrote down a little thought that I had. I've been on my Myron Golden kick still. And he said something the other day in a video. He said, if you have a thought, write it down. No matter what it is, whether it's a little thought, a big thought, a quote, something that pops in your head, write it down. So I wrote something down when I was preparing for this podcast this morning. I said, it is your responsibility as the owner of the company to bring the best out of your team. It's your responsibility to bring the best out of them. It's not your responsibility to get the most work out of them. It's not your responsibility to drive them like a slave master. It's your responsibility to bring the best out of them. And I have struggled with that over the years. But one thing that I think is super important, and I know Justin is big on, is building that company culture. From the day they come in, throughout the time and being employed by your company, it is your job as the owner to feed into them and build them up and bring the best out of them. Because if you hired properly and you screened them properly, they have the potential. But it's your job to bring that potential out of them and it's a very delicate thing to do. Because you can oftentimes offend somebody if you don't do it the right way. And also look at the strengths and weaknesses of your team as you're building and realize their strengths and realize their weaknesses. And that'll better help you make the right moves moving forward with that team member. We got Brother Marcus, the appliance boss, checking in. It's speed to the lead. Good morning, sir. Always a pleasure. We got Garrison Howard checking in. Good morning, brother. Thank you for stopping by. But one thing that I am big on, and I just want to touch on this for a minute, is team meetings. I was flipping through Facebook this morning, and one of the people over at ASTI is doing a class on team meetings and how to make team meetings not boring. Every single one of us has probably been employed by somewhere where you had to go to meetings and you were just like, this is horrible. I used to work for a church here in Richmond, a very big church, and we would have meetings, and I absolutely dreaded them. And there was one particular person that would be in these meetings that at the very end of the meetings, he would always ask questions. And everybody else in the meeting's ready to go home. It's like 10:30 at night. And this dude would always ask questions. I'm like, dude, put your damn hand down, dude. I'm trying to go home and go to bed. But I'm interested to hear how that class goes. So if you go to ASTI, let me know. But team meetings are important. But one thing that I'm big on is don't just have a meeting to have a meeting. If everything's going smooth and you're good to go, cancel the meeting. Say, hey, we're not going to have a meeting. Everybody's doing a great job. But one thing that I've done is I've started doing, and this is something EJ taught me in the early on days of me and him forming a relationship and a friendship, is every meeting that I go into with my team at Richmond Appliance Guys, I prepare for it. Usually about a week in advance, I start getting my meeting notes ready. And then the day before my meeting, I sit down and I go through Telegram and I look at different things we've been discussing. We use Telegram for all of our communications as a team. Another little tip, things like Telegram and Discord and things like that are great for communicating. Shout out to Zach Kreider for turning me on to Telegram. And I'll go through our general conversation chat. We have a general conversation where we just put, just anything that's not specific to a different chat we have. And I'll go through and I'll look at different things that need to be addressed. And then when it's time to have the meeting, I get to the meat and potatoes of the matter. And one thing that I'm really, really diligent about is giving everybody an opportunity to share their opinion. I'll go around the room and I'll ask each individual, hey, man, what do you think about this? We're actually putting together some ideas for a service plan / maintenance plan. And I presented it to the team yesterday, and I went around and I asked their opinion because I care. I want to know what my techs think about the idea. I want to know what my parts manager thinks, because these guys might see something or look at it in a different way. And Beth, bless her heart, she's always chiming in with little nuggets or little questions. Hey, well, what about this, TK? Because the old saying goes, 2 heads are better than one. Well, when you get in a room in a meeting, don't just talk and talk and talk and talk. Sit there and listen to your employees. Sit there and listen to your team and value their opinion. And when they say something, take notes on it. When Beth says something, I'm listening. And a lot of times it's your job as the person that's orchestrating the meeting to let the people know that they can share how they feel and feel comfortable sharing. Because a lot of times we're apprehensive, especially if you're an employee. You don't want to say something to him, but it's your job to let those people know, like, hey, we value your opinion. You're a valued member of this team, and we want to know what you have to say. We want to know if you think this is a good idea. So shout out to the team members out there and all the people out there doing it right. But for you one-man shows, once you start growing, it's too late to put all these things in place. Now's the time to start thinking about it. Now's the time to get your application put together. Now's the time to get your onboarding process together and document it so that you know how to put these employees into your business and make it seamless. And honestly, there's a lot of legalities to it. So you need to make sure you cover your ass. CYA, cover your ass and make sure that you do it the right way. Because like I said in the beginning, I didn't even have an application. Like you came, you worked, I put you on payroll, and that was it. Learn from my mistakes, folks. Don't do it that way. That is a horrible way to run a business. Well, I got to get my son to school, Miss Ward. So if you got any closing thoughts, we're going to wrap this thing up and get on out of here.
Yeah, well, one thing I want to mention with the one-man shows, you don't wait till you have a team to have meetings. You need to be having a meeting with yourself. Myself, I have a meeting on the beginning of the week, the end of the week, and in the middle of the week to tweak. And when I say a meeting, you're going to have issues on a daily basis. You should be documenting that and coming up with creative solutions to resolve those issues. Every week should build on top of the next, because you're going to have the drama-filled weeks with recalls, customer issues, blah, blah, blah. You should be working that out. Also, let's not forget about the other team members, such as an accountant, bookkeeper, blah, blah, blah. We're going to do a show specifically on the one-man show. And exactly some of those things they need to put in place, because the worst thing is to try to do everything and not have things in place to make your job easier. That's all I got.
I want to be a fly on the wall when you do that one, because that's going to be some good nuggets dropped. But just like Miss Ward said, you one-man shows out there, start now. Start scheduling time into your week, whether it's 2-3 times a week, where you're working on these things, where you're working on putting the stuff in place that you need. And then the next meeting that you need to start having is some sort of mastermind or peer group. Get yourself around some business owners that you trust and you can learn from, that are where you aspire to be, and start listening to them. You know, when we started the first mastermind, it was me, Justin, EJ, and Zach. I was like a little sponge with everything Justin was talking about. Anything he was saying, I was listening. And I got a lot of good nuggets from that. And I built upon that and started adding more and more other people that I would just call and pick their brain, or have a weekly chat with, or whatever. So if you're out there doing it all alone, you don't have to be alone. The Service Alliance community is here for you. We want you to be involved with a mastermind. For you, those of you going to ASTI, just get ready to soak it up like a sponge. And here's my biggest tip for ASTI. It's very easy to get caught up in the fun time of being at ASTI. Trust me, I'm guilty of it. I missed a lot of morning brainstorms because I was sleeping in because I stayed up too late the night before. But if you're going to ASTI, pace yourself. Don't go in there and ruin it because you had too good of a time the first night. Shout out to Anthony Cotto. He knows what I'm talking about from 3 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago. Take your time, pace yourself, and be a little sponge. Get out of your comfort zone while you're there and get around some people and ask some questions and take notes. Jenny Seeley, shout out to Jenny and Joe, Calvary Appliance. She put together a ASTI workshop thing for you to print off and take with you in a binder. I haven't looked at it yet, but I highly recommend, if you're going, take that with you. And just be a little sponge. When you come back, you're gonna feel overwhelmed. You're gonna feel like you just had a fire hose blasted at you of information. Take baby steps, just like we always talk about Atomic Habits. Do small steps each day to make your business better. We appreciate you guys checking in every morning. We appreciate this community that has just grown and done so great. And for those of you that are growing and doing your thing, if you ever need any help, we're here for you. As always, Miss Ward, thank you for stopping in. If you have not subscribed to Solid Steps to Wealth, go over there, subscribe to Miss Ward's channel. If you haven't signed up for ServiceAllianceGroup.com, make sure you go over there and check it out. We got all your SOPs, your tech sheets, your courses, all that good stuff. And if you ever need anything, feel free to reach out to us. I hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great rest of your week. If you're going to ASTI, pray you have safe travels. Be careful, be safe. Don't overdo it. You're in Vegas. Remember, that old saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. That's not true. There's video cameras now. So behave yourselves. All of you guys and gals going to Vegas, behave yourselves. Don't be doing anything naughty or too naughty. And we will touch back in with you guys next week. Peace.